Hey everyone, before I start the lecture, does any of you have any questions? No questions? So last night, some of you might have noticed, yes?
So you have a homework exam and a quiz this week?
Yes. Yeah. But if you notice, usually the homeworks are just like from the slides, and they are really straightforward. Usually the average time students spend to accomplish them is like 20 minutes. So as long as you go through them, come to the class or like watch the lecture and pay attention, you should be all set. And I intentionally had like quiz before the exam. I mean, the deadline is technically Friday night, but I encourage all of you to take it before the exam so you get prepared. And homeworks have like 20 points each. Quizzes have like 40 points each. Your exam is out of 100. So it's better to lose the question on homework or quiz rather than the exam. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I always post the answers after the deadline, so technically you won't be having the answers for the quiz before the exam, but when you reach out to me that you have some issues with any of the questions, or if you want to know what you got wrong, I gladly communicate that with you. So just email me if you have any issues. Okay? So, just want to make sure that I'm recording. Some of you might have noticed that last night I entered early warning grades. So, and I went through all the attendance for all students and also the grades and all that. So if you have any questions or concerns, and some of you, emailed me about those. So if you, if I didn't respond back to you because I was like really busy, a couple of past days with all the grades and writing midterms, writing exams and all that. But I'll get back to you after this class. So don't worry about that. But in general, any questions? Yes?
How many questions is going to be on the exam?
It would be 25 questions. 25 questions, each 4 points. And last semester I experienced with, I thought maybe it's unfair that someone has like 3 wrong answers and they got a B. So I had like 50 questions. They were really easy and you could have answered them really fast. But still, students see 50 questions and they think, it's really hard to do that in like 1 hour, like 50 minutes, less than an hour. So for that matter, I just have like 25 questions, so you don't have to worry about time. Okay, great question. Any other questions? No? Okay, so your exam would be multiple choice questions, and I apologize for people who are watching the lecture. I'm going to post this on Canvas too, so you know what as the grade Scantron is. So what you do is that in your test, I'll give you this, so you don't have to print anything, you don't have to bring anything to the test, except a calculator. And I emphasize that because the students can say, do you have an extra? I don't. So I have 2 calculators, really nice, but they are back in Massachusetts. So I cannot lend those to you. I don't have at my office. So make sure to bring a calculator. And you just want to deal with like multiplication, division. You don't even deal with power at this point. I mean, you should know like 10 to the power of 3 is like 100. So technically, you don't even need, your calculator doesn't have to have power as long as you know basic power, operations. But, you're welcome to also bring like nicer calculators like TI, algebra, as long as you don't program anything on them. And I feel like it would be much more difficult to write something on those calculators compared to just like memorize whatever you're writing them, So you should bring a calculator. A pencil, I highly recommend a pencil because as you can see, here, when you fill out these questions, something like this, and it starts from here. Here is like for your, student ID. So I don't require you to fill this out, but you should remember to start from here, okay? If you answered the first 10 questions here to here, the software that I'm using to grade your exam doesn't read that. So you wouldn't get 10 multiplied by 4, 40 points. Does that make sense? Because the software, it matches like these bubbles, with the answer that I give to it. Does that make sense? So you don't have to fill this out with your student ID, but if you think that you get confused, just fill that out regardless. But you start from here till 25 questions. Basically, you fill these out. And then you say number 1 is 3, number 2 is whatever it is, okay? And then you write here, exam 1, and then here CHEM101, and here, your name. And that is the only thing that you need to write. As long as you have your name is the most crucial part, and the fact to start from here and answer the question. So if you don't have a pencil, what happens, as I said, if you answer like this and then you cross this out and then answer D, that would be automatically a wrong answer. For your makeup, since you didn't know, I graded those manually for those of you who took, but I highly ask you and encourage you to bring a pencil and an eraser. So in case you had something wrong, you can erase it, okay? And also, you're going to take the exam questions with you home. So I highly encourage that when you're answering the questions on your exam sheet, write also the correct answer there. So when I post the solution, you can compare and calculate your grade. Does that make sense? But you're going to take that. This is the only thing that I'm collecting from you, and I give you this. Okay. Any question about zip grade Scantron? Good? Okay, so it would be 25 questions, each 4 points, and it would be until the materials that we cover by 1:20. So anything in this lecture that we talk about would be also on your exam. So listen well, take notes, whatever you're doing, and I also post the slides after this. Are we clear? Okay, so before I start today's lecture, does any of you have any questions or any difficulties with any part of the course that you want me to explain more or solve some examples? Yes?
Can we work out some heat density problems, like how to increase something by something degrees if the density is something?
Okay, so specific heat or heat question?
Just how do I do those questions at all?
Okay.
I don't know how to express those.
Okay, so the questions about heat and specific heat capacity, those ones. Okay, so let me just write before so I write here specific heat capacity or heat in general. Okay, any other concepts that you are struggling with and you want me? Yes?
You do some conversions of kilometers per liter and miles per gallon and stuff.
Okay, kilometer to meter and what?
The miles per gallon, kilometers per liter, miles per gallon.
Okay, ounce to, okay, gotcha. So basically it's similar to the example that I wrote, right? So, and in general, I write conversion factors. Okay, what else? What are we struggling with? Or we're unclear on? Anything else? Everything else is clear? So if I ask you in the exam, so this will I for sure cover. So now if I ask you how many significant digits, and maybe I write this, how many significant figures or digits, this number, if I can spell number, has 0.000105. How many significant figures it has? 3. So remember, 3 is sig figs. So leading zeros, these are not significant, all numbers, all digits which are non-zero are significant, and any zero between two digits are significant. Okay? So if I tell you how many, in the sentence, I have 10 cats. Imagine I have 10 cats. So how many significant digits the number 10 has? Okay, how many say unlimited? How many say 2? How many say unclear? Okay, so this is something that can be confusing. If I had like 10 kilogram, or if I go to the lab, measure something, and then the answer would be 10, that would be unclear. So zeros at the end of a number before an implied decimal point are ambiguous and should be avoided by using scientific notation, remember? But if I have an exact number, 10 cats, it's just like exact counting of numbers, right? If I say 10 books, if I say 10 students, if I say 100 students, if I say 100 ants, if I say like 100 books, all of those are exact counting of numbers. And exact numbers have unlimited significant figures. Is this clear, the difference between the two? So if I say 10 kilogram, we don't know how many significant digits it has. But if I tell you 10 cats, it has unlimited significant digits. Good? And I'm going to ask you, so I'm just basically, this session is me telling you the questions in your exam on Friday. I'm going to tell you, how many significant digits this number has. So this would be 1, right? Only 7. Or this number would be like, number of sig figs would be 3. And I tell, like in the following sentence, whether I say 10 books or like 10 girls or like 10, I don't know, cows, I don't know. So I just say like 10 counting, exact counting of some creature or thing or atoms, and I ask you how many sig figs they have. So this is another question that I'm going to ask you. But if I tell you I measured something in laboratory and it was like 350 grams, how many sig figs this number has? This is unclear. Are we all good on this? Any questions? Okay. Which of the following is not a derived unit? Pascal, Newton, kilowatt, meter. Which one is not a derived unit? Meter. So remember, we have like basic units, we have derived units, okay? Basic units are, so basic units are meter, which is unit of length, okay? Second, which is unit of time, kilogram, which is unit of mass, and Kelvin, which is unit of temperature. Other than these, any other unit, these would be derived units because they were driven from other units, okay? So Pascal is like force over length to the power of 2, or Newton is like kilogram meter per. So basically it's like mass multiplied by length divided by time to the power of 2. You see they are like derived from other units. We did some mathematical operations on these to get this. And then kilowatt, and this is another thing, remember, kilowatt itself is a unit of power. It's basically energy over time, but kilowatt hour is a unit of energy. Does that make sense? So I don't ask you like these definitions. You don't have to worry about this. But what you need to know, oops, I meant to highlight this, not kind of delete this. But I asked, you should know meter is a basic unit. Okay, as long as you know that, you should be able to answer this question. Okay? Any questions? Good? Okay. So, and then units, I forgot to write a T here. Sometimes I just like get so excited to just kind of like try to be fast, cover as much as I can. I just miss, writing words or like write them wrong. So just like feel free to tell me. Okay? So now let me go back. Any questions before I proceed with the next thing I'm saying? Good? So let me go back to what your friends asked. So let me do first, okay, so conversion factors, and this one I just started writing myself. Let me go to the lecture, or like in general, remember, if I want to calculate heat, can anyone tell me what was the formula? Anyone? Yes? Exactly, MC delta T. Remember? Let me go back. If I can find this slide that I had. I should also have it here. Go to first slide. Okay, and then here we have like a specific heat capacity of substances listed. And this is another thing that I asked you in your quiz, and I'm going to ask you in the exam too, that which of the following has the highest specific heat capacity? And I give you water, ethanol, iron, copper, or any other of these elements. So, compounds or elements. So these two are like, compounds, the other are elements. So which one has the highest specific heat capacity? Water, right? And do you guys remember dimensional analysis? What was dimensional analysis? Yes?
Solving a problem based on its units.
Exactly. So here, if you know that what is the units for specific heat capacity is joule per gram degree Celsius, right? So it's the amount of heat required to increase the temperature of 1 gram of a substance 1 degree Celsius. So if, and I have like some problems that I brought to solve for you, and depending on how much I can, explain this fast, I go to solve those problems. So what I tell you in the exam, and I just write an example here. How much heat, and I try to write not that bad, is required to increase the temperature of 10 grams of water 5 degrees Celsius. And I give you like 4 answers, but right now when we want to solve the problem, what is the first step? What's that? Exactly. So Q equals M multiplied by C multiplied by delta T, right? And I give you the specific heat capacity for water, which is this number, 4.184 joules per gram degree Celsius. So you don't have to memorize this number, okay? But you should know water has the highest specific heat capacity. So what is the next step? What is it? Yeah, we just like substitute the values, right? So how many grams did I give you? And always write the units, because I may give you kilogram and then you need to convert that to gram, okay? Or I may give you pounds and then you should convert it to gram. So you should write the unit. Multiply by, what is the specific heat capacity for water based on the table given there? 184, right? And it's like joules per gram degree Celsius, right? So right now, this gram, remember, this is like numerator. With this gram in denominator, they cancel each other out. Is that clear? Any questions so far? Are you guys all with me? Okay. Multiply by, what is the temperature change? 5, right? And then this degree Celsius cancels out with the other one. So your answer would be 10 multiplied by 4.184 multiplied by 5 joules, right? And if I can go here, okay, that equals to, so 10 multiplied by 4.184, it would be like 41.84. So 10 multiplied by 4 would be like 40, right? So you just change the decimal point when you have like 10, 1 to the right. Okay? And then multiply that by 4. By 5, sorry. So, and if I did the math right, this would be your answer. And you always check, like 40 multiplied by 5 would be like 200. So this number makes sense. Hopefully I did it right. And if you want to write it, so here, because I asked you like 10 gram, again, this number, how many significant digits the number 10 has? What's that? Remember, this is not exact counting. I didn't count the grams, right? Grams. It's kind of like, this is unclear. So your answer, we don't have to worry about it. But as I told you, I promise you, in these questions from now on, I don't stress about significant figures anymore. Okay, I asked you separately about those, so you don't miss the question, the points for this question if you don't know sig figs. Okay, I asked a separate question about significant figures. But this is the procedure to solve the problem. Okay, does that make sense? So now let's do another question. If I can manage, I go here, so I have the table here. I tell you, it takes, kind of like I asked the reverse question, 20 joules to increase the temperature of 5 grams of a substance 4 degrees Celsius. What is its specific heat capacity? So this is kind of like the opposite of what I just gave you. So now I gave you heat, I gave you the mass, I gave you the temperature. What do you want to find in the equation here? Yes, C, you want to find that, right? So what is the first thing you do? What's that? Exactly. So first write the equation Q equals MC delta T, right? So, and then you can put like multiplication between them too, but when we don't put, just like implied. Anyway, so what is the amount of heat that is given? 20 joules, right? We're just substituting. Are you guys following me? Okay, what is M? 5 grams, right? 5 grams. What is C? We don't know, we want to find it, right? What is delta T? 4 degrees Celsius. So, do you guys remember how to solve an equation? You have like the side that is known, divided by the coefficients of the unknown, right? So 5 grams multiplied by 4 degrees Celsius, remember? So C equals 20 divided by 5 multiplied by 4, and the unit would be joules per gram degrees Celsius. So unit so far makes sense because this is the unit that we should get right here, joules per gram degrees Celsius. And C equals 20 divided by 20, which is 1. And I try to give you like numbers that would be like easy like this one. So you can just easily solve the problem. But this is the rationale, this is like the procedure. You write the formula, substitute the numbers, and solve the question. Is this clear? Any difficulties or questions? Okay. So now imagine that in this question, I say that this, so let me do another question. So if I tell you that the mass of a substance is 5 grams and its volume is 5 cubic centimeter, and I ask you what is this density? What was density? Can anyone tell me? Mass over volume, exactly. So what would be the density of this substance? 5 over 5, which is 1, and what is the unit? Gram per cubic centimeter, right? Are we clear on like density? So is density a basic unit or derived unit? Derived, right? Because we have like gram over, centimeter cube. So basic unit is just the ones that I mentioned, like length, units of length, mass, temperature, and time. Okay. Any question before I go to the next question that your friend asked? Questions? Okay, let me see what was, okay. I have like the exact question that I wrote before. Now I'm going to solve it. Let's write it again. So I say convert, and I'm just telling you guys, I'm going to ask this exact same question in your test. I'm just going to change the number, but the exact same thing. Convert, or maybe I don't even, if I'm just like running short on time, sometimes I just use the exact same numbers. So it would be like kind of like you feel upset if you see that I gave you a question and I asked exact same thing in the exam if you miss it. So convert 110 pounds, and remember we use LB to demonstrate pounds, to ounce, OZ. Knowing the following information. So the only thing that I expect you to know in the exam by heart is like converting temperatures, like Kelvin to centigrade, centigrade to Fahrenheit. I expect you to know those equations, and also the equation for a specific heat capacity and like heat itself. But other than, and also, prefix multipliers, like what is tera, what is mega, what is nano, remember those? And tera, mega, nano, you saw in centi, kilo, you saw those in your many homeworks and quizzes. So except those things, I don't expect you to remember any other numbers. I don't expect you to know any numbers so far in the course, okay? Just the things that I just mentioned, I expect you to know. So here I give you that, I tell you 1 ounce equals 28.35 grams, and 1 pound equals 453.59 grams. Okay, so remember, in this class, in this lecture, and till the rest of the semester. Anything you want to find, have a question mark, write the unit for that. So in this question, what do we want to find? Yes, we want to find ounces. We say how many ounces equals, and here after equal sign, you write the thing that you are given. What are you given? Yes, you know 110 pounds. And now you use this information here to write conversion factors. But so far, till this point, any questions? So you write a question mark, the unit of the thing that you want to find, equal sign things, the thing that you are given. Is that clear? Any questions? Good. And now here, I want to find, I want to use these two conversion factors. Do I have a direct conversion factor that converts pounds to ounce? I don't have a direct one, right? So I should use two because I have two information given here, right? So first of all, in order for, I should get rid of this pound, that's for sure. Should I write it in the numerator or denominator of my conversion factor to get rid of it? Denominator, right? Which if I write it here, this and that, they cancel out. So I get rid of pounds. But here, how can I convert pound to something else? What unit should I write in the numerator? Grams, right? Because these, I have information between conversion between pounds and grams. What should I write in the denominator? 1, right? Because I have 1 pound. What should I write in the numerator? 453.59, exactly. So this is equivalent to this information here. Is this clear so far? Any questions? If you have any questions, just ask me. I'll just explain it again. But this is what we're dealing with till the rest of semester. If you don't understand this, you cannot solve any questions. So just let me know if you have any difficulties. And also, if you don't want to ask during the class time, just email me. I will schedule tutoring sessions with you. Some of you are already coming to my office hours or have emailed me to meet with me outside of my office hours. I just explain everything to you, And you have your SI pass leaders, you have tutoring, and if none of those work out, you can just email me and I schedule a time that works for you and I make sure that happens, okay? So I don't want you guys to suffer in this class because you have a busy schedule, you cannot go to SI pass or tutoring or come to my office hours. I make sure that I devote as much as time and attention that you deserve in this class, okay? So now we got rid of pound, but now we're stuck with gram. And I don't want gram, right? I want ounces. How can I get rid of gram? Should I write gram in denominator or numerator? Denominator, right? Because if I write it in numerator, it doesn't cancel out. Gram multiplied by gram would be gram squared, right? So here now gram cancels out. What should I write? So here I have gram. What should I write in numerator? What do I want to find? Ounces, right? So what number should I write in denominator? 28.35, exactly, right? What should I write in numerator here? 1, because I have 1 ounce, right? So now if I multiply 110 by 453.59, divide that by 28.35, my answer would be in ounces. And to save time, I already did the math at my office, And the number roughly would be 1,759.96 ounces. And as I said, here, we don't know how many sig figs this number has anyway. But I'm not going to ask that in conversion factor questions. Any questions? Are we good with this? Okay. Are we comfortable with conversion factors now? So anything that you want to find, you have like question mark that unit of the quantity that you want to find. Equal sign, and write what you are given. And then write as many conversion factors as needed to find the unit that you want. Okay, now here I'm going to show you, and I'm going to post so many materials on Canvas. Have your eyes open, and I have send multiple announcements about things that I post. So one thing that I'm going to post is examples from last semester, what questions they had in their exams. I'm going to also post makeup homeworks and quizzes that the students took last week. So I make sure that you have as many examples as possible. So now let me go through some sample questions that I had, questions. Okay, it's outside of the class. Okay, so I already have the answers. So, but I'm just going to go through them real quick. A single drop of soda contains about 100 atoms. True or false? False, right? I also have the correct answer here. Tentative interpretation or explanations of the observations. Hypothesis, yes.
Can you make it a little bit bigger on the screen, please?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Good?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for telling that. Okay. Scientific law, remember. What is another name for theories? Models. Okay? And all of them can be, hypotheses, theories, scientific laws. All of them can be proven wrong by experiments. So anything that you hear potentially can be wrong if, scientists come up with new experiments. Okay? And a good hypothesis is not falsifiable. This sentence is wrong because it's falsifiable, right? And scientific law is a brief statement that summarizes past observations and predicts future ones. And for your homework problems, for your quizzes, when you read all the answers, I say which of the following is not correct. So also read the correct ones because I'm going to ask that in another question, okay? And the other thing that I'm always telling my students, read all the answers. Even if you're 100% sure, you see, which of the following sentences is not correct. And then you see the first one and you think that that is the answer. Read B, C, and D as well, okay? And the other thing is that I will be having multiple versions of your test on Friday, so make sure to not cheat. I talked about this at the beginning of the semester, but if, I realize that you have cheated, you just received 0 on that test. And I can't tell because some of the questions that I ask are true or false. And sometimes by accident you may choose D or C. But if I see for 3 or 4 questions you did that, I know that probably you looked at some other person's exam. So make sure to be aware of that too. Okay. So models are scientific theories, and non-place holding digits in a measurement. What is that? Significant figures, right? Any questions? That is the definition of significant figures, yeah? So just interrupt me if anytime you have any questions. All non-zero digits are significant, true or false? True. Exactly. Now, I say which of the following is correct. So you see that if you have 2.37 and then you want to round it to 2 or to 2 sig figs, first of all, you should have 2 digits, right? And the fact that if you have the number after 3 is 5 or more, you round up. So you write 2.4. But if you had 2.34 and then you wanted to round it to 2 sig figs, you would write 2.3. So what is like, how would I round, or tell me the number, or the answer to these questions? Round 2.35 to 2 significant figures. 2.4, exactly, because this number is 5. 5 or above, we round up. So if I tell you round this number to 1 significant figures,
2.
only 2, right? Again, you look at the digit after 2, and if it's less than 5, you round down, meaning that just write this number. Are we clear on this? Okay, for calculations involving multiple steps, we should not round all the intermediate results. We only round the final answer. True, right? By themselves, numbers have little meaning. True, right? Because we should have units. If I tell you that I walked 3 minutes, 3 steps, 3 miles, 3 kilometers, what is that, right? You should write always the units. So before I progress, did I answer the question that you asked about the conversion of units? This question that I saw, was it the same one that you asked? Mm-hmm. Okay. So before I proceed with the rest of the exam that I have, does any of you have any questions or concerns? Or something that you want to make sure that I talk about before the class is over? Okay. And then what are SI units? The most convenient system for science measurement, which is based on metric system. Okay? Remember, SI units are not based on English system or like imperial units or, pounds, inches, feet, and all that. Okay? They are like based on metric system. So, and then here I have a question about like which one is like the, base unit. And nano is 10 to the power of minus 9. I likely asked you that, in the exam. So remember, nano is 10 to the power of minus 1, and mass to volume is density, okay? And let me see. So I guess this one is a good one. So I just want to eliminate the answer. Okay, so how can I write that number more efficiently? Scientific notation, exactly, right? So not with metric system, not with English system, not, any other things. And which one tells me the precision of a measured quantity? Yeah, just shout it. Significant figures, yes. So significant figures, and this question was giving students really a hard time last semester. And you see interior zeros, trailing zeros, those can be tempting, right? But in general, significant figures gives us the precision of of measured quantities, okay? So this one was another example of a question that most students got wrong. Exact numbers originate from all of these sources except exact counting of discrete numbers. Again, 10 books, 10 cats, 10 students, all of those are exact numbers. Integral numbers that are part of an equation, if I say radius equals diameter divided by 2, this 2 is an exact number, okay? I didn't measure it in laboratory. And defined quantities, kind of like, if I say 1 kilometer equals 10 to the power of 3 meter. This is, again, exact number. But measured quantities are not exact numbers. Any questions? Okay. And here, again, I have like some examples. And I encourage you, I have like several of these that I'm going to post today. So I encourage you to go through all of them and ask me, come to my office hours or just email me if you have any questions. And now let me quickly go to, what is this one? PowerPoint. This is like, okay. And something that I will ask you, and we still didn't do attendance, so if you want to have like attendance, just like bear with me here. So something I'm going to ask you in the exam, and I ask that in your quiz too. I'll give you an element, and I give you the periodic table for this. I say which row and column in periodic table phosphorus belongs to. Or I say which of the following elements belong to the different family or group compared to the other ones. And I give you like fluorine, bromine, and phosphorus. Which one? Yes, phosphorus is in a different family or group. So you should be able to distinguish this. And then the difference between row and period with family or group. And the other thing, I ask you in the exam, I tell you which of the following scientists came to the indivisible atomic theory, or he believed that atoms are indivisible. And I say Rutherford, Thomson, Dalton. Which one? Dalton. Or I tell you which one came up with nuclear atomic. Tell you which one came up with plum pudding model. Thomson. Okay? And I say in Thomson model, electrons are, basically have like negative charges, or ask you like true or false question, or I say the sphere has negative charge. True or false? False, right? So no, this theory is also theory. Rutherford, okay? All right, really well. And again, things that we mentioned in the class, just like study all of those well. I'm going to ask several questions about periodic table, about like atomic theories, because those are really important. And also knowing that electrons have negative charge, protons have like positive charges, and they are like heavier than electrons. I'm going to ask that too. And if you guys don't have any questions, let's do the attendance. And make sure to put like the capital letters, the small letters. So hopefully you get the link work. So while you're doing that, I just think of questions that I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to ask you, how many significant figures this number has? 0.005. And I'll ask you, so temperature of Moscow is 0 Celsius. How much would that be in Fahrenheit or Kelvin? So you remember, the formulas, and ask me if you have any questions. And the other thing is that, remember, 0 Kelvin is the lowest temperature possible. If I tell you I reported a temperature like -2 Kelvin, that sentence doesn't make sense because we don't have negative temperatures in Kelvin. So make sure to know that one too. And periodic table elements, compounds, alloys are homogeneous mixtures. I just said that several times. Alloys are not compounds. Alloys are homogeneous mixtures. Water, sugar, salt, they are compounds. So this is the thing I mentioned, kilowatt hour. Kilowatt really good hour, then you well, because kilowatt itself is not power. Power is energy divided by time. So that's
As the multiple. Yeah. You can. Mine's longer.
I didn't have it here. Okay, here. So this is the equation I'm looking for. Remember? So we have like mass multiplied by specific heat capacity multiplied by temperature change. I have like a specific heat capacity here, which has like the unit of joule per gram degree Celsius. And I multiply that by mass, right, which is gram. And if I multiply that by temperature change, which is like degrees Celsius, what would be my answer? What would be based on this? Joules, exactly, right? So if you have like written something in numerator, something in denominator, and they cancel out each other, you will end up with the thing that is left, right? Does that make sense? Are you guys following me? So what I'm going to do in the, okay.